Hola a todos, bienvenidos de vuelta a otra clase de Introducción al Marketing. Hello everyone, welcome to what I promise will be one of the most practical marketing research lectures you'll take this semester. Today, we're going inside the mind of one of the world's most successful language learning companies, Duolingo. You know the green owl, right? The one that haunts your dreams when you break your learning streak? Well, behind that friendly and slightly passive-aggressive mascot is a marketing research powerhouse. We're going to explore how Duolingo uses sophisticated research methods to answer one critical question that could make or break their business model. And let's crack the freemium code together. Picture this scenario. You're scrolling through your phone, you see an ad for Duolingo, and you think, you know what? I should finally learn Spanish. You download the app, you complete your first lesson, you feel great. Maybe you even do a second lesson. The app asks if you want to upgrade to Duolingo Plus. You think, nah, I'm good with free. Sound familiar? Here's the staggering reality. Duolingo has 74 million monthly active users. That's more than the population of the United Kingdom. But here's the kicker. Only a small percentage of these users actually pay for the premium version. This brings us to our central research question for today, and this question is going to anchor everything we learn about marketing research. Which onboarding experience best converts free Duolingo users into paid subscribers? Before we dive into Duolingo's research strategy, we need to understand a fundamental concept that separates successful companies from those that are just collecting data and hoping for the best. Let me read you the textbook definition. Customer insights are fresh marketing information-based understandings of customers and the marketplace that become the basis for creating customer value, engagement, and relationships. Here's what it actually means. Data is knowing that 60% of users quit after day 3. Information is understanding that users quit because they feel overwhelmed. But insight is realizing that if you introduce bite-sized lessons and celebration moments, you can reduce that quit rate by 40%. This is the transformation process every successful company must master. Data becomes information, information becomes insights, and insights become decisions that drive real business results. General Mills figured this out when they created something called the Hive, a single ecosystem where all their customer insights live. Instead of having data scattered across departments, they created what they call a one-stop shop for insights. Now let's get specific about Duolingo's challenge, because this is where theory meets reality. Duolingo is incredibly sophisticated at tracking user behavior. They know exactly when you open the app, how long you spend on each lesson, where you get stuck, when you close the app. They can tell you down to the second when users typically abandon their streak. But here's what's fascinating, and this is the gap that separates data from insights. They could see what users were doing, but they couldn't see why. They could see that Sarah from Denver completed 5 lessons and then never upgraded. But did she not upgrade because she didn't see the value? Because the timing was wrong? Because the message wasn't compelling? Because she forgot she was even using a freemium app? This is the classic trap many companies fall into. They think that having internal data means they have understanding. But as we'll see throughout this lecture, internal data is just the starting point. It's not the destination. So how do companies like Duolingo bridge that gap between data and insights? They build what we call a marketing information ecosystem. It's an actual framework that determines whether companies succeed or fail in understanding their customers. The marketing information ecosystem, or MIE as we'll call it, isn't just about collecting data. It's about creating a systematic approach to turning information into competitive advantage. Think of it like this. If data is the raw material, the MIE is the factory that turns that raw material into something valuable. Your textbook defines it as people, processes, and assets dedicated to assessing information needs, developing information, and helping managers generate actionable customer insights. Every MIE draws from three critical sources. First, internal data, all the information your company already has. For Duolingo, that's app metrics, user behavior patterns, transaction data. Second, marketing intelligence, what's happening in the world around you. App Store reviews, social media conversations, what competitors are doing. Third, marketing research, the systematic investigation you design to answer specific questions you can't answer any other way. Most companies are pretty good at the first one. Some are decent at the second, but very few excel at the third, and that's where Duolingo gained their competitive edge. Let's look at what Duolingo's information ecosystem actually looks like in practice. On the internal data side, they're tracking everything, and I mean everything. Every click, every swipe, every time you pause mid-lesson to check Instagram, they know. They can tell you the exact lesson where users typically give up, the time of day when engagement drops, which animations users replay most often. For marketing intelligence, they're monitoring App Store reviews across 40-plus languages, tracking social media mentions, analyzing competitor features. When Babel launches a new feature, Duolingo knows about it within hours. But here's the fascinating part, and this is where we see the limitation of even the most sophisticated internal data. Despite having this incredibly rich behavioral data, they still had a fundamental gap. They could see that users weren't converting to paid subscriptions, but they couldn't see why. They needed something more than tracking. They needed systematic marketing research. And that brings us to the heart of our lecture today. How do you design marketing research that actually answers the questions your business needs answered? This is where we move from theory to practice, from textbook concepts to real-world application. Marketing research isn't just, let's send out a survey and see what happens. It's a systematic process with 4 distinct steps, and each step determines whether your research will actually be useful or just expensive data collection. Step 1. Define the problem and research objectives. This sounds obvious, but most research fails because companies skip this step or do it poorly. Step 2. Develop the research plan. This is where you decide what methods to use, who to study, what questions to ask. Step 3. Implement the research plan. Execute, collect data, make sure you're getting quality information. Step 4. Interpret and report findings. Turn your data into insights and insights into recommendations. The textbook defines marketing research as the systematic design, collection, analysis, and reporting of data relevant to a specific marketing situation. Notice the word systematic. That's what separates professional research from just asking customers what they think. Let's see how Duolingo approached step 1, because this is where most companies stumble. They could have defined their problem as users aren't upgrading, but that's a symptom, not a problem. That's like saying people aren't buying our product. It doesn't give you anything actionable to work with. Instead, they defined their management problem more precisely. Users engage in first session but don't upgrade to Duolingo Plus. This immediately points you towards the onboarding experience as the key variable. Their research objectives became crystal clear. Identify which onboarding flows maximize conversions. Understand user perceptions of premium value. Determine optimal timing for upgrade prompts. This is what we call causal research. They want to understand cause and effect relationships. Does changing the onboarding experience cause users to upgrade more frequently? Step 2. Designing the research plan. This is where Duolingo made some really smart methodological choices. They decided to use primary data collection, information collected specifically for this research question, rather than relying only on their existing data. Their plan combined two research approaches. First, experimental research. They would use ABC testing, creating different onboarding experiences and randomly assigning new users to each version. This is the gold standard for understanding cause and effect. Second, survey research. They would follow up with in-app surveys to understand not just what users did, but why they did it. They wanted to measure perceived value, motivation levels, and intent to subscribe. Here's the brilliant part of their research design. They weren't just testing what worked, they were testing why it worked. The experiments would show them which approach was most effective, and the surveys would show them the psychological mechanisms behind user behavior. Let me show you what their experimental design actually looked like, because this is where research theory becomes marketing practice. They created 3 different onboarding experiences. Version A, badge-focused. The message was, unlock exclusive badges and show your progress. This tapped into achievement, motivation, and social recognition. Version B, price-focused. Limited time, 50% off premium features, classic urgency, and scarcity psychology. Version C, feature-focused. Learn faster with unlimited hearts and offline lessons. Practical benefits and functionality. Each new user was randomly assigned to one of these 3 experiences. Same app, same lessons, same functionality. The only difference was how they introduced the premium subscription. Their success metric was simple and clean. Conversion to paid subscription within 30 days. Now, before I tell you the results, what do you think happened? Which approach do you think worked best? Keep that in mind as we talk about how companies analyze and use this kind of research data. Once you've collected all this data, you need to turn it into something actionable. And this is where companies are starting to use some really sophisticated tools, marketing analytics, and artificial intelligence to find patterns that humans might miss. Marketing analytics isn't just running reports. The textbook defines it as analysis tools, technologies, and processes by which marketers dig out meaningful patterns in big data to gain customer insights and gauge marketing performance. Here's how Duolingo applied this to their onboarding research. First, behavioral segmentation. They discovered that users fell into distinct groups: fast learners who completed multiple lessons quickly, social sharers who posted their progress, and streak maintainers who came back daily but progressed slowly. Second, conversion funnel analysis. They could track the exact user journey from download to subscription, identifying where each segment typically dropped off. But here's where it gets really interesting. They used predictive modeling powered by machine learning to match individual users to the onboarding experience most likely to convert them. This isn't one-size-fits-all marketing. This is mass customization based on behavioral patterns. Step 1. Collect user behavior data from the first few interactions. Step 2. AI algorithms identify microsegments based on learning patterns, engagement style, time of use, even device preferences. Step 3. Match each user to the onboarding experience most likely to resonate with their specific profile. Step 4. real-time optimization. The system learns from every interaction and continuously improves its matching accuracy. The result? Personalized experiences that adapt to individual user preferences and behaviors. Instead of showing everyone the same upgrade message, they can show fast learners achievement-focused messages, social users community-focused messages, and casual learners convenience-focused messages. This is the future of marketing research, not just understanding what your average customer wants, but understanding what each individual customer is most likely to respond to. But before we get too excited about all this sophisticated personalization, we need to address the elephant in the room. Just because we can collect all this data and personalize these experiences doesn't automatically mean we should. There are some serious ethical considerations we need to discuss. The same techniques that make marketing research powerful also raise some uncomfortable questions. Let me pose a few for you to think about. Is it okay to nudge users into upgrades using gamification psychology? Duolingo uses streak anxiety, the fear of breaking your learning chain, as a motivational tool. But when does motivation become manipulation? What if they use push notifications that exploit loss aversion? You're about to lose your 47-day streak. Is that helpful motivation or psychological coercion? How much behavioral tracking is too much? They know when you use the app, how long you spend, what mistakes you make repeatedly. They probably know your learning patterns better than you do. Here's the central ethical question in marketing research today. Is this smart personalization or subtle coercion? Now, there are arguments on both sides. Personalization can genuinely help users by showing them features they'll find valuable. But it can also exploit psychological vulnerabilities to drive business results. All right, let me show you what a report from Duolingo's research would look like, because the results can always be surprising. The winner? Version C. The feature-focused onboarding experience drove 25% more conversions than the other two approaches. But here's the really valuable part. The survey data revealed why this worked. Users said that clarity in benefits mattered more than urgency or achievement. They wanted to understand exactly what they were getting for their money, not feel pressured or gamified into upgrading. Some other fascinating findings. Users valued practical features over gamification elements. Timing was crucial. The optimal moment was after completing the third lesson, not the first. Personalized messaging increased conversion rates by an additional 15%. How do you make use of the result? By rolling out the new onboarding experience to 100% of new users. Marketing insights from reliable research design can result in significant revenue increases that justified the entire research investment. Let me leave you with the key insights from our journey through Duolingo's marketing research process. Great insights don't come from tracking alone. They come from designing the right research. This is the central lesson. Having sophisticated analytics is valuable, but it's not enough. You need systematic research that answers specific business questions. Remember these 5 principles. First, internal data helps, but it needs to be supplemented with primary research. You can see what customers do, but you need research to understand why they do it. Second, marketing research is a structured process with critical decisions at every step. Skip steps or make poor choices, and your research won't be actionable. Third, experimental design is your best tool for understanding cause and effect relationships. Testing isn't just for websites. It's for any situation where you need to understand what actually drives behavior. Fourth, AI and analytics turn data into actionable insights, but only if you've collected the right data in the first place. Fifth, Ethical considerations must guide all research activities.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Before we wrap up, I want you to think about something. We live in an age where companies know more about consumer behavior than ever before in human history. But information without insight is just noise. How does AI change marketing information and insights? A lot. So dramatic that it can be described by the only time I see the University of Houston appearing in a blockbuster film. Have you figured it out? Yes, that was the movie Independence Day. A few minutes after appearing in the movie, UH experienced what AI would bring to marketing research. Explosive, AI can bring changes to almost every aspect of this process. It can generate data tracking plans and write web pages. It can make recommendations for data analysis, conduct the analyses, and interpret the results. It can design surveys and even simulate human responses. It can create reports and presentation slides. So what is your role, or more generally, a human's role in today's AI-infused world? Quite a lot. For one, AI, at least at the current stage, still makes ridiculous mistakes in data analysis and research design. A capable analyst can become quite efficient with the help of AI assistant supervising and curating AI works. All right, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've seen how marketing research transforms data into insights, how companies like Duolingo bridge the gap between internal analytics and customer understanding, and how systematic research design creates competitive advantage. You got the framework. You've seen it applied to a real business challenge, and now you get to practice it with your own thought experiment. Don't forget to read Chapter 4, which covers all the concepts we discussed today in more detail, plus additional examples and case studies. Pay special attention to the sections on primary data collection methods and ethical considerations in marketing research. Remember, the best research starts with a clear problem definition and specific research objectives. If you have questions about the lecture or want to discuss any of the concepts from today's lecture, take advantage of the office hours posted in the syllabus. Thanks for your attention today, and keep up the good work.